Tim Seeley and Dan Jurgens get retro as some of the past events from the Heroes Reborn universe are detailed, specifically the never-ending battle between Nighthawk and the Goblin, who has decided to up the ante on their next fight and decides the Falcon must die. Tim Seeley does a fantastic job imbuing the story with great 1970s aesthetics, as he does an adaptation of Green Goblin's Last Stand, through a DC Comics lens that is. Being Tim has worked on many DC books over the years, a lot of Batman stuff as well, I enjoyed him mashing up Batman and Robin and Nighthawk and Spider-Man to create this great sort of Death in the Family, Green Goblin's Last Stand sort of mashup, exploring how the death of Gwen Stacy and the death of Robin affected both of these characters, infusing them into one. I also like the idea that because of the death of Falcon, Nighthawk kind of shut himself off from everyone, the squadron, his friends, his job, and I like that that is sort of the reason, the linchpin and catalyst why he in the present day books is a lot harder edged and cold and a calculating killer who will kill if it gets him what he wants. It's a great way to showcase why this hero is the way he is, and it's not just some poorly planned idea that was to make him just evil for the sake of being evil. There's a little bit more to it. Dan Jurgens was the perfect artist to depict the 1970s tribute, having worked for DC for decades doing just that. I love how he made it feel like it was a book from that era, not just in the way he drew it and the way it was colored, but down to the little details like the margin notes advertising other books, of which are all in-universe jokes or books that don't actually exist, but they do in the Heroes Reborn universe. His line work was stellar and definitely some of his better work as of late, and it successfully made me feel like I was actually reading a comic from 40 odd years ago. Heroes Reborn, Marvel Double Action Issue 1, was a wonderful tribute to the comics of the 1970s, perfectly capturing the feel and tone of books from that era while expanding Nighthawk's backstory and doing a great job explaining why he is a little harder edged and more violent in the present day books. I'm going to give this issue a 10 out of 10. Heroes Reborn, Marvel Double Action Issue 1 sees Nighthawk return from the Alternaverse too late. Now Harry Osborn is in a coma, but he can still be there for the people who cared about him like Gwen Stacy and Sam Wilson. Kyle takes off his costume to enter the hospital room, asking what happened. Gwen says that it was the super serum and Harry somehow got a hold of the street drug and it put him in a coma. Kyle should have known the pressures of being his aide on Capitol Hill was too much for Harry, as Gwen knows that she was the one who told him that they were better off as friends and they both came from different places. Sam seems to think that it's his fault though, since he okayed Harry to take the congressional aide job and told him to try his hand at some romance. Sam, however, knows that they all know who is responsible for this, his father Norman Osborn, who bullied his son for not living up to the family name. Kyle agrees that they should direct their anger towards Norman Osborn as the man listens from the hallway. Heading out into the street, Kyle offers to buy the three of them all coffee, but Sam knows that this is Kyle's big day in Congress, where he's introducing a bill to the floor of representatives. Gwen walks on and Sam takes the opportunity to remind Kyle quietly that tonight they can find who sold Harry the drug and make them pay. Kyle is looking forward to it, heading off as Sam and Gwen keep walking, finding a homeless man nearby, another of the super serum's victims, knowing it's ruined the entire city. They give the man some money as Gwen wishes they could do something more, and Sam knows they can, be it a big gesture or a small one. Kyle meanwhile knows how Norman Osborn moonlights as the Goblin, and while he managed to take down many of his villains, the Goblin has always been a thorn in his side, even discovering Kyle's secret identity, and he would have been killed by the villain had it not been for the bright sun at his back and the alchemy flowing through his veins. He knows his enhanced punch, though, cracked Norman's skull, and while he tried to save the man's life, the damage had already been done and he was left with amnesia, forgetting he was ever the Goblin, and he let him stay that way. But Kyle felt guilt and fear since he lost control and it led him to push everyone away. But then he met the Falcon and it reminded him of why he donned the mask in the first place, not knowing what he could have done without Sam at his side. Kyle is pulled from his mind by Greer Grant, who hopes the congressman was thinking of her since he hadn't called her all week. Kyle is sorry, but he's been busy with work, but he wants to set up lunch with her tomorrow, hoping it doesn't leave her in the lurch. Greer finds that okay, hoping that he has a good day as she knows that she'll find something to keep her day busy, caressing the amulet that allows her to turn into Tigra. In Harry's hospital room, Norman wonders if Kyle was right and he did this, beginning to remember how he tried to turn his son into him and it broke his heart, meaning he is a villain. Nighthawk with a syringe appears in the room with him. Never forgetting that Norman is the villain, he begins to remember that Kyle Richmond is Nighthawk, as well as he was the Goblin, turning back into the villain briefly. Goblin knows that he's not responsible for this, and he did everything for his son. He knows his son isn't responsible either, since he was a good boy and as strong as Norman made him. Norman knows that this was done to his son since he's surrounded by enemies within their lives like Kyle Richmond, who poisoned Harry, and he will make him pay. A doctor comes by, asking if Norman is feeling alright, but Norman leaves, saying that he's feeling whole for the first time. In Congress, Kyle delivers his bill, knowing his party hasn't found much ground with President Fury, but he knows the Howling Commander-in-Chief shares his opinions of superheroes, specifically the Squadron Supreme of America, and while he appreciates the heroes and their powers to do things they cannot, it makes him a bit nervous, since they could be asked to make decisions for them by turning the world into the utopia that the humans can't themselves, and he can't have that. Hence why he sponsors the bill that will limit how far the squadron can go in solving their problems, and they cannot determine the course of their culture or make decisions for them about what justice is, since it needs to remain in the hands of the people. He knows the bill will put a target on his back and he will get primaried against Flash Thompson, but he believes in it and he will take questions outside his office. Later on, the press come to see Kyle at his office, with Lonnie Latimer wanting to know what he will do about the supervillains running rampant, like Kraven the Hunter, freeing animals at the National Smithsonian Zoo right now. Kyle feigns that he left his briefing notes in his office, locking the door behind him as he sends out his LMD in order to answer the press's questions, while he changes into Nighthawk and heads to the zoo, where he battles Kraven, who knows the animals are meant to be roaming free and hunt just like him. Sam Wilson, meanwhile, can't believe how a kid from U Street got where he is as he looks around the night cave. He knows partnering with Kyle has been good for him, and he knows he is getting something out of it as well, since he's the one who put wings on their little flock. He thinks about expanding their operation, but with who? Knowing Harry couldn't possibly do it, but Gwen could join them. Red Wing soon alerts him to something, but it's too late as the bird is killed by the Goblin, who attacks Sam, hoping that he enjoys his pumpkin bomb. Sam is blown back by the explosion, so Goblin decides to take the grounded bird to a higher perch. Later on, Kyle returns to the cave looking for Sam, but catches the smell of brimstone, so he tells the Night Pewter to track Sam, finding where he's been taken to. Getting aboard the Hawk Rod, Nighthawk races off to the Chesapeake Bridge, which Goblin has taken Falcon to the top of. Nighthawk knows that this is where he stopped Goblin from stealing those Americhem trucks and stopping Oscorp's competitors, but Nighthawk did something unforgivable, driving Harry to self-destruction, and for that he asks the hero to kill himself or Falcon dies. Nighthawk knows that he is tired and stretched thin even without his powers, and now something tells him Norman has gone way off the deep end. Nighthawk attacks but is kicked down by Goblin, forced to grab a hold of the bridge as Goblin says that he can dodge faster than Kyle can dodge the press at his office. The villain gloats about Kyle's job performance as the hero knows he's stronger and faster now and he is done for. Nighthawk, however, stops himself from thinking that, knowing he's trained with the greatest fighters in the world and he has more than just his superpowers, and he's going to give this everything he has. He keeps Goblin from his glider as below, Commissioner Cage arrives, demanding the bridge be sealed off as Captain George Stacy arrives, wanting to just blow the whole bridge and the costume freaks up with it. Cage says that he's got a different view of this, since there is a difference between a devil and a saint. Goblin meanwhile gets back on his glider, knowing Nighthawk is still too late, and now Falcon won't ever see another sunset. Nighthawk tries to free Sam, but the Goblin pulls him from the bridge with the glider, and Sam plummets towards the Chesapeake River below, so Nighthawk throws a grapple after him, catching his leg, but the sudden stop and jolt causes him to snap his own neck. Kyle pulls him up, only to find that Sam has died. The hero knows that he saved him, but and the Goblin says that he didn't realize that the sun had gone down, so he was using his full superpowered strength when he pulled on the grapple, so the force from that killed Sam. Goblin thought that it was a fitting revenge to force him to watch him kill Sam in front of Kyle, but he was wrong since it's so much better to watch Nighthawk kill him. Filled with rage, Nighthawk tackles the monologuing villain from the glider, smashing into a police car below. Luke tries to help them, but Nighthawk hits the commissioner out of the way, saying that he's busy as he demands Goblin stay quiet. Goblin, however, knows that they should talk, since it's what civilized men like them do. Goblin's glider races silently at the hero's back, but before he can kill Nighthawk, he grabs it, crushing it to pieces with his super strength, but not before tearing off a razor-sharp piece of metal, squeezing it so hard in his palm that it bleeds. Nighthawk plans on shoving the metal into Goblin's face as he remembers his message to Congress earlier that day about how the heroes cannot determine the course of their culture and justice must remain in the hands of the people. He scares Goblin with the metal but throws it down, telling Cage that the Goblin is all his, wanting the murderer arrested, as Kyle knows that he did survive, but inside of him once there was light, but now there is only cold darkness. Later on, a vigil is held for the fallen Falcon, but it is being used by some to light the path forward, while others it illuminates the relative nature of their own problems. For Kyle Richmond, however, it forces him to retreat from the world and recognize his power comes from darkness, and that is where he will live forevermore.